Okay, welcome everybody to our first college financial aid night of the 2021-22 school year. I'm Vinny Searcy. I'm the Director of Pupil Personnel Services here in Norton and act as the Director of Guidance as well. And I'm happy to have Osama Say from Citizens Bank here tonight, who's going to be doing the actual presentation for us. If you're not able to stay for the whole meeting, or you know someone else who is unable to attend tonight, we will have this presentation up on our website. However, as he pointed out to me, some of the material at the end, especially around rates and those kinds of things, change frequently. So please understand that some of that might change down the road. We also are happy to have him here from Citizens Bank, but we do not promote one bank or one institution over another. We're just lucky to have a number of institutions who reach out to us to do these kind of informative nights, and they are much more of an expert around the financial aid process than we are as counselors. So we're happy to have him here tonight. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we'll take it from there. Folks who have questions, if you want to put them in the Q&A, we will do our best to answer them again towards the end of the presentation. So thank you so much.
Awesome. All right. Thank you for that amazing introduction. And as you mentioned, my name is Osama Say Ekator, High School Relationship Manager for Citizens. So extremely excited to be with you all today. Really to give this session, it's designed to help families like yourselves by giving you the information to help you make informed decisions, especially when it comes to understanding the financial path leading to college. Okay. So once again, as mentioned, if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the Q&A text box. And I'll be happy to answer those questions at the end of the presentation. Might also be able to answer some questions in the middle of the presentation. Might do a little halftime and see if there are any questions at that time. All right. And just so for a little bit more background on myself, when I think back to the end of my high school journey as a first generation student, my parents and I weren't really familiar with the FAFSA process. I did not have amazing guidance counselors like you all do. Mine really could not provide me that much help when it came to financial aid as well. So, to be honest, I felt alone. And I really did struggle to complete my fast in a timely manner, but that's why I take such great pride in being able to provide families like yourselves with the knowledge that I wish I had back then. Okay. And with that being said, look, we know that college might seem scary. It might seem like an expensive experience, and it most likely is. Okay. But it truly is a great investment because we know that statistically, college graduates earn 67% more than non college graduates. Okay. So before we start today's presentation, we just hope that you see the value in your journey for higher education, and we want to help you achieve those goals. All right, so without further ado, throughout today's presentation, we'll discuss the following topics. Okay, the first one is what exactly is financial aid? How do you start the process of accessing financial aid? What exactly, what happens after you completed your FAFSA, and what is a financial aid offer letter? And then we'll talk about how to close the financial gap, and lastly, how can citizens help? Okay. So to start us off today, let's discuss the definition of financial aid. Okay. Financial aid is any money provided to students and families to help pay for post-secondary education. And there is a common misconception that all financial aid is free money. However, that's not the case, right? We know that some financial aid is free, but other forms of aid must be worked for and even paid back, okay? So with that being said, most students will actually use a combination of scholarships, grants, campus-based programs like Photo Work Study, and loans to pay for their college education because it is truly such a great investment in your future, okay? And I'll go into more of these sources in further detail later on, but just real briefly, scholarships, free money. Grants, also free money that's awarded through this federal and state level. Then this Photo Work Study, which is a campus-based aid program that allows students to work during college to earn money toward their education expenses. Okay, and then there are those loans, right? Those funds that do have to be paid back once a student graduates and leaves school. Okay, and both students and parents can take out these loans to pay for school. All right. So now let's discuss the process of accessing your financial aid. Okay. The first step in applying for financial aid is to complete that FAFSA, all right, which stands for the free application for federal student aid, all right. And FAFSA is free, okay. So students and parents should never be required to complete the application. To pay in order to complete the application. And it is, I think over the years it's gotten fairly easier to navigate since I was applying. But if you ever do need help, like my family did, there often is free help available to you if you look for it. Okay. Now FAFSA opened up on October 1st. All right, so we're halfway through October, and it's been open for a little bit. Basically, if you are a senior, you can apply tonight. All right, and that's really important because the earlier you apply for financial aid, potentially the more amount of money you can earn for things like grants. Okay, so just make sure you're on top of that. And there's 3 ways to complete that FAFSA. Okay, you can do it through mail, over the phone, or online, either on the website or the My Student Aid app. Okay, and as you probably could assume, the online form is the most common and easiest way for families and schools to process. You could do that online at www.fafsa.ed.gov. Okay, so to start, you must actually create, both you and your parent must create individual FSA IDs. Okay, and the reason behind this is because the FSA ID, it serves as a signature to sign the online document. Okay, and then another reason why both students and parents need separate individual FSA IDs is because there's 2 separate portions to the FAFSA. All right, there's the parent section and then the student section of the FAFSA. Okay, and this application, it tends to take about 1 to 1.5 hours online, and as I mentioned, it has gotten fairly easier to navigate. Okay, so now after filling out the FAFSA, a student aid report, otherwise called SAR, will be created and sent to prospective schools that you listed onto your FAFSA, ultimately to determine, how much and what type of aid a school can offer to you as a student. All right, and you can add up to 10 schools that you're considering onto your FAFSA application. And after a school, receives your application and fingers crossed, you are accepted into that school. The school will then deliver either through the mail or electronically what's commonly referred to as a financial aid offer letter. Okay, and I'll actually talk a little bit more about that offer letter in just a few more minutes. But I want you to keep in mind that the FAFSA has to be completed every year that you're in college. Okay, so you fill out your senior year, and then after your senior year in high school, you'll keep on filling it out every year you're in college. Okay, and the reason why is because they just want to make sure that financial changes from year to year can be considered. Okay, so now I want to show you a screenshot of the FAFSA website. Okay, and this FAFSA site, it easily leads you through the steps, whether you are starting a new application for the year, or maybe you're continuing with FAFSA you've already started. Okay, and something to make note of is that FAFSA uses prior year tax information to determine aid. Okay, so for example, right, 2020 taxes, that's what's going to be used for the 2022 to 2023 school year. And basically, this allows the family to know their financial options earlier in the decision-making process. Okay, and FAFSA also offers an IRS data pulling tool, which basically allows students and parents to input their tax information onto the application. And I think this is one of the reasons why it's gotten easier to navigate. I think this is a great addition because basically it makes the process easier and it helps to avoid any discrepancies since it is coming directly from the IRS. Okay. And lastly, FAFSA has a phone app called the My Student Aid app. And it is a great tool to fill out the FAFSA if you don't have access to a computer, or maybe you just prefer to use a mobile device. All right. And as you fill out that FAFSA, there's going to be a couple of documents and information that you'll need. All right. And I know it's a laundry list of things. I'm going to quickly skim through it, but Social Security numbers for students and parents, that is needed. You'll also need your citizenship status for both students and parents. Driver's license number for students, only if they have one. If you don't, it's okay. Cash information for students and parents. And really that's like savings / checking accounts, also investments. Then you'll also need a record of your untaxed income. So that's child support received, interest income, and veterans non-education benefits. Okay. And then lastly, federal tax information for both students and parents. Okay, so that would include IRS 1040, 1040A, 1040 Easy, and foreign tax returns. Okay, so when you're filling out this FAFSA, don't worry. You will be guided with what information you need to include on each section. The reason why I like to go over this is because it's always best to be prepared with what to expect. And I know it might seem overwhelming. I know, once again, it is a laundry list of things. And sometimes, people tend to make mistakes, right? But you are all in luck because we're going to go over some of the most common mistakes, all right? So hopefully you can avoid them, okay? So the first common mistake is using the wrong Social Security numbers when filling out certain sections on the FAFSA, okay? So families, I need you to be mindful of which section you are on, whether it be the parent section or the student section of the FAFSA application, okay? And then there's mistake number 2, which is entering the correct parental information on the FAFSA, okay? So for married parents, students can use either parent's information. For divorced parents, students must use the information of the parent they live with the most or the parent who provides the most financial support, which is normally the same parent, okay? For remarried parents, students should use the parent and step-parent they live with the most. And then for parents who are unmarried but do live together, students can use either parent's information, all right? Now, if you are a student that has a scenario that I have not mentioned, don't worry, you can visit the FAFSA website. There is an entire section about which parents to include onto your FAFSA, okay? And then there's mistake number 3, which is knowing the correct size of your household, all right? Students should use the correct amount of people who their parents support more than 50%, okay? So let's say, for example, you have a sibling who lives in the basement. She pays her own bills. She pays her own rent. She is not dependent at all on your parents, okay? Even though she lives under your household, she technically would not be counted under your household size. However, if you had a grandparent or a cousin who does live with you and they're financially supported more than 50% by your parents, they would be considered under your household size, all right? And then in that similar vein is mistake number 4, which is reporting the accurate number of household members in college, okay? So this really applies if the student and parent are filling out the FAFSA and both are going to school that upcoming year, okay? The student would not actually include their parent onto this specific portion of the FAFSA, but the parent could include their child onto this specific portion of the FAFSA, okay? And I know that might sound confusing, but the reason behind this rule is that, the parent is financially supporting their child, but the child, in most cases, is not supporting the parent, okay? And then that leads us to mistake number 5, which FAFSA needs certain information on assets to decide eligibility for providing financial aid. Okay, so on the FAFSA application, families should not include IRAs, 401ks, or the value of the family's primary residence. However, you should include any bonds, stocks, or other property your family may own or rent out to others. Okay, so this could include rental properties or even vacation homes. All right, and if you end up making any of these mistakes, don't worry, it's not the end of the world. You can always edit your FAFSA after you sent it in. It might just hold up some processing. But the most important thing is to not change any numbers to look better. There are some penalties, and you don't even want to have to go through that whole process. Okay, so once you've completed your FAFSA, for some families that does not mean that your financial aid process is over. Okay, some colleges may require students.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? Just on number 5, what about 529s? I know a lot of people get questions about their 529.
Great question. So 529s would be included on the assets.
Okay. And then the other thing I was going to note is make sure that you do the FAFSA.gov. There are websites out there that aren't .gov, and you go through the whole process, and then they charge you a fee at the end to basically send it electronically. So make sure you use that correct website.
Yep. Yeah, great point. Once again, it is www.fafsa.ed.gov.
Yep.
Great point.
Thanks.
Great
Sorry.
point. Cool. No worries at all. All right. So once again, College Scholarship Service profile. What it does, it creates a more comprehensive picture of your family's finances in addition to the FAFSA. Okay, so This CSS profile is only used by a little under 300 schools and scholarship providers, and it's administered by the College Board, which some of you may be familiar with because that is the organization behind the SAT, okay? Now, once again, this CSS profile, it helps most of these private colleges and universities look at other factors, right? Like cost of living and money that your family may have already spent on private education in the past. So that comes in handy, especially if you have siblings that, older siblings that have gone to private schools, okay? Now, unlike the FAFSA, it's not required, right, by every school. And also unlike the FAFSA, the CSS is not free, okay? The first application is $25, and every application thereafter is $16, okay? And it takes 45 minutes to 2 hours to complete. Once again, check on your school's website to see if you even have to do a CSS profile, because if you don't even fill it out. You're just wasting your time. So just make sure that you're double checking on that, all right? So now that you've completed your FAFSA, now that you've completed your CSS profile, let's discuss how your information is going to be used, okay? All of that information is going to help a school determine what your family's expected contribution may be. Now, expected family contribution, or in other words, EFC, is the measure of a family's financial strength to pay for a year of college, okay? And this is calculated with the formula that is on our screen, right? That is, tax and untaxed income, benefits, family size, and free members in college, and then lastly, assets, all right? And there are some common misconceptions about EFC, okay? So for example, families should know that the EFC is not the amount your family has to pay. It's not the amount of aid that a student will receive, nor does it change even if you were to go to a different school, all right? Instead, the EFC is part of a bigger formula to help determine financial need. And before we even get to that formula, we're gonna talk a little bit about cost of attendance, all right? So cost of attendance is typically made up of two things, direct and indirect costs. Okay, now direct costs consist of tuition, room and board, and those are usually set in stone. While indirect costs, such as transportation, miscellaneous, book and supplies, those are all dependent on other factors, and they could change at any time. So, for example, when I was in college, I was an English major, okay? And don't ask me how I got into banking, but I was an English major, and, you know, the cost of my book and supplies was a lot cheaper than some of my friends who were in the nursing program, right? Because they had to get textbooks every year. So that's one example of how even your major can affect those indirect costs, okay? And sometimes you may also see loan fees and study abroad costs, okay, included into that cost of attendance. But once again, it's all dependent on the school and other factors, okay? And the cost of attendance, it should be easy to find on your school's financial aid website. So take a look at it, because once again, that is the amount of estimated money it will cost to attend that specific school, all right? So now that we know what cost of attendance is and we know what EFC is, let's calculate financial need. Financial need is calculated by, what I want you to do is I want you to subtract that EFC from the cost of attendance, okay? And every school's perspective on the student's financial need, it's going to be dependent on a bunch of factors. So in short, it is very possible to receive a higher financial need somewhere else, but schools will take a look at your financial needs to determine how much aid they can offer to you as a student. And the total aid awarded cannot actually exceed what your financial need is, but some schools may be able to cover the cost entirely, okay? So let's take a look at an example, okay? As you can see on our screen, here are some numbers really that tell a story about a student who applied to various schools with different costs of attendance. Right, they applied to a private school, a state school, and a community college. And they all have different costs associated. So basically, that cost of attendance is a variable element in the financial aid formula. While EFC, well, you can see how that translates to what their overall financial need is, ultimately affecting the amount of aid that they may be eligible for. So, in layman's terms, EFC is a constant variable, okay? And it's not going to change. Once again, depending on what school you go to, it will remain constant. And it's also, once again, not the amount of aid that you may receive, okay? So Overall, understanding the cost difference in private, public, and community college can help paint that financial picture and ultimately help you find the best financial fit for you as a student. All right. So I want to take a quick pause and see if there were any questions so far that anyone had.
Can you see them, or do you want me to read them out loud? I could do that.
I
There's
can, I
one.
can,
It says, does a
go ahead.
UTMA account count towards the child or parent assets?
Great question. I'm gonna follow up with that at the end of the presentation. Just write that one down.
I'll just leave it. I won't get rid of it, and we can go back to it.
Okay. Cool. Excellent. It's a great question. So I will follow up on that at the end of the presentation. All right. Any other questions?
Nope, that's it so far.
All right. Cool, cool, cool. So now, and I do see one. My son will be able to use my 9/11 GI Bill that reported anywhere on the FAFSA. I'm not sure if that is reported onto the FAFSA as an asset. I do know that you do have to report veterans non-education benefits. So I'm not sure if that fits under the 9/11 GI Bill. Once again, that would be another one that I could follow up on as well. Great question, though. All right. Cool. So I will get back to these questions, as well as feel free to put any other questions in there throughout the presentation. Okay. So what I want us to do next is take a step back, all right, and look a little bit more high level. And when we do that, when we look high level and look under the umbrella of financial aid, we're going to see two main types of aid for students, all right, and that's need-based and non-need-based. Now, need-based financial aid will take into consideration any financial information that was provided on that FAFSA or provided on that CSS profile, okay? And that would include things like, let's say, a program, for any of you that are familiar with that, all right? And then there's non-need-based aid, which is the most familiar type of aid, okay? That kind of aid looks at athletics, academic performance, in particular fields of study, okay? And now I want to talk a bit about the financial aid offer letter, okay? So after all of the calculations and aid have been added, financial aid offer letters are usually sent out in the mail or electronically. And for my parents out there, when I say electronically, I don't just mean email, but also your student's school portal. Sometimes they are there, so just make sure that your student is on top of that, okay? But this usually takes place in late winter or early spring of a student's senior year, okay? Now, these offer letters, they inform students about how much aid they will receive, but they'll also make students aware of the unmet need, okay? Now, unmet need is often referred to as the gap, and this is the amount of money that a student must come up with to pay for college, okay? So as you can see on the screen, we have an example of what a typical letter may look like. Yours may look a little different, but you can see the total university charges on there, once again known as cost of attendance. And in this example, the cost of attendance is $49,192, okay? Now this financial aid package, it is made up of a scholarship. I see grants, I see federal work study, and federal loans, okay? Now what I want you to do is take that aid that was given to the student and then subtract it from the school's cost of attendance, okay? And when we do that, we see that the student is now left with a total gap of $26,292, okay? Once again, these are the funds that a student will have to cover in order to attend this particular university, okay? And it is important to keep in mind that this offer letter is just for 1 year of school, right? You always have to reapply for FAFSA, and it may change in subsequent years, whether it be based on grades or other financial factors, okay? And many students can see their cost of attendance number and imagine it as, I don't know, let's say monopoly money, right? But it is important to know that any financial gap is something that will have to be paid back, okay? Now, a loan that is in this example, and it may find itself in your own financial aid package, is a Direct Plus loan for parents, okay? Meaning that the loan is in the parent's name and they are responsible for repayment, not the student, okay? And while this Direct Plus loan, it is a resource that can be used, it should be carefully considered alongside other options. And I'll talk a bit more about those options further later on. But before we move on, just one last thing on this offer letter. I want us to look at that federal work study award. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, federal work study funds, they need to be earned through employment. Hence, this offer letter example is showing that the student is eligible for work study, and the amount of money that can be earned through that work study job is $1,800. All right, so that brings us to my favorite part of this presentation: free money, free money, free money. All right, so let's
Can
start
I
with the
interrupt one more time? Sorry
Yeah,
about the work study. I think something that's important, and I learned the hard way as a parent, was that money is actually not guaranteed. It's what they could potentially earn. So if there is not enough work, or there is a lot of people who apply, or the hours go down, those kinds of things, they may not earn that money. I didn't realize. I thought it was kind of a guaranteed amount that, oh yeah, we'll have enough work for them, but that is not the case. So, it's nice to have, but it doesn't mean they're going to reach the full 1,800 or 2,000 or whatever they put there. So just so folks know.
yeah. Yeah, and we'll talk more about the federal work study. Once again, it is, you have to work for it. So if you see it on your offer letter, basically don't even count it, because your student has to, like you mentioned, work for it. All right, so we'll talk a bit more about that. Before we get there, scholarships, okay? Scholarships, they can be based on academic performance, needs, skills, and even unique characteristics, okay? I've seen scholarships out there for natural redheads, for people who are good at esports, for people who can juggle. Like I've seen every and any scholarship, okay? But I want you to keep in mind that there are certain scholarships that may have stipulations, right, which are usually outlined in the application. So that might include you have to continue to play a sport or keep a specific grade average, okay? Now, the amount awarded for each scholarship, it's going to range, right, depending on the source. So, for example, a college or university may be able to offer an annual scholarship of $15,000, okay? But smaller private organizations may offer scholarships of $500, right? No amount is too small because there is no limit to the amount of scholarships that a student can apply for. And most scholarship applications are just a variation of a college essay or supplemental essay that your student may have already written for the college applications or even for a school paper, right? All they have to do is just tweak them to fit the requirements for the scholarship essay, okay? So ultimately taking 10 to 15 minutes every day after school to apply for scholarships can literally, and excuse my cliche, but literally pay off, okay? Millions of dollars in scholarships each year go unclaimed because students aren't applying, and some students just don't know where to search, okay? So there are several sources out there. There's American Legions, churches, and other local clubs. There's websites like FastWeb, Unigo, and Naviance if you're high school officers, okay? But while you're looking online for scholarships, I need you to be careful. I need you to be wary of the many scams that are out there, okay? Students should never have to pay for in order to enter a scholarship. So that's usually a red flag. If you do see that, that's most likely a scam, okay? And if you do see a scholarship that, you're thinking of applying to, but you're a little bit on the fence about, I know you have an amazing guidance department, so feel free to check in with them, and I'm sure they can help you see if the source is credible, and maybe they can even help you find some local scholarships to apply to, okay? So this
And
scholarship,
we do,
oh,
sorry,
go ahead.
again, sorry to interrupt. We do have
No,
Naviance, and we do have the list of scholarships there. The students have been directed on how to reach that through the Naviance program. And then we will do in February, we kind of have our local one-stop shop application for our local scholarships. Not all, but the ones that go through our school that they ask us to take part in. So we'll go through that process in early February and give them the February vacation timeframe to get the application in, and then either we have a scholarship committee at high school that does determine many of those, and then some of the individual scholarships have their own committees that then look at that application. But so there are both ways, and then again, the guidance counselors are there to help them out in any way they need to.
yeah, awesome, awesome. Glad to hear that. And, so once again, look into those scholarship resources. But there's scholarships and then there's also grants, okay? Very similar because they're another form of money that does not have to be paid back. It's just that some grants are need-based, okay, which means that not everyone qualifies for them. And they can come from a federal and or state level. And one federal grant that you may have already heard of, once again, is a Pell Grant. Okay, so in order to be considered for any federal grant, you will need to fill out that FAFSA. Okay, and remember earlier when I said FAFSA opened up October 1st. If you are a senior, you want to get on top of that as soon as possible because federal grants are on a first come, first served basis. Okay, so the earlier you apply, potentially the more money you can earn for grants. Okay, because once that money is all gone, they don't replenish it. Okay, so once again, get on top of it. If you don't finish it by the end of tonight, it's not the end of the world, but you just want to keep that at the top of your mind. Okay. And one thing that many families don't necessarily realize, especially when it comes to private universities, is that they're able to offer other forms of grants to help cut the cost of college tuition. Okay, and these private grants are not always based on financial need. Okay, so when exploring colleges, don't get shocked by the sticker price. I know if I did, I definitely would not have gone to the school I went to. Some private schools can offer these grants to make the cost just as affordable as state schools, okay? And as I say that, be wary of state deadlines because they can be different for each school. So always make sure you're double checking on the school's website as well as the FAFSA site. All right. So right back to federal work study. I know we've spoken a bit about it already, but once again, it is essentially a student working a part-time job during college to earn extra money for college expenses, okay? And there is going to be one specific question on the FAFSA that asks students if they want to be considered for a federal work study program. Now, answering yes doesn't actually guarantee that you'll be awarded this program, but it will at least put you into consideration, okay? And not every school participates in this program, so it is possible to receive different federal work study awards for each school that you're accepted into. Okay, now a student who receives this type of financial aid can, once again, they can work up to earn that amount. So if we think back to the previous offer letter example, that student, I believe, was received $1,800 in federal work study, right? That basically means that's the amount of money that they can earn if they were to get a work study job on campus. And because this is a need-based type of aid, not all students will qualify. And even if you do qualify, you're not guaranteed a job. Okay, so for all the students on the call tonight, you will have to go through the application process. You will have to go through the interview process. As you would any other job, put your best foot forward in order to qualify for that role. Okay, and if you are able to get that federal work study job, not only is it extra money in your pockets, but it's also a great opportunity to put on your resume as an experience booster. Okay. And then there were federal loans. All right. And I feel like anytime I get to this part of the presentation, I can feel the tension in the air. I feel everyone get a little bit more tense. So hopefully I can put you at least to ease and make something that sounds so complicated a little bit more simple. Okay. So federal loans, as we know, they must be paid back with interest. But undergraduate students are actually encouraged to exhaust their federal direct loans first because they do have certain benefits, right? They have low interest rates and flexible options for repayment. Now, the only way to be considered for a federal loan is, you guessed it, you have to complete that FAFSA every year, okay? And there's two federal loans that are currently available for students, and that's direct subsidized and direct unsubsidized, okay? So if a student were qualified, basically these loans will automatically be added onto their offer letter. And the basic difference between the two is that the government pays for the interest on that direct subsidized loan, all right? And not all students will be eligible for that direct subsidized loan. Only those demonstrating financial need will receive them, okay? It's also important to note that the U.S. Department of Education pays for the interest on that direct subsidized loan while a student is in school, at least at a half-time rate, and 6 months after the student leaves school, okay? And if a student were to receive a direct unsubsidized loan, well, they're going to be responsible for the interest of the entire life of the loan, okay? And I know that sounds a little scary and overwhelming, but one way that students can actually lower their cost of repayment after college, it's a tip that I love to give to students, is to pay for the interest while they're still in school. Okay, and that's actually easy to do. It's easy to stay up to date with your interest by using that My Student Aid app that I had mentioned earlier. Okay, paying as little as 20 or $30, right? That's just gas money. If you pay that towards your interest every month while you're still in school, that can potentially help you reduce your payments by a lot once you graduate. Okay. All right. So, after you've exhausted all of your free and earned aid, let's talk about how you can now close that financial gap. All right. And the first step into closing that financial gap is looking at a tuition payment plan. Now, tuition payment plans are basically just you paying that tuition bill on a month-by-month basis to avoid taking out loans. Okay, so next to using your savings or just paying everything straight up in full, this is typically the least expensive way to finance college since it is interest-free. Okay, now tuition payment plans, they last the duration of the school year, so it's normally 10 months, and they offer interest-free payments. But as I say that, some schools may assess fees or finance charges on their tuition payment plans, so just make sure that you inquire about that. All right, and you can actually work directly with your school to pay a portion of that tuition payment plan, right? So you could pay, let's say, $200 a month if that works for your budget, and that's going to help you cut down the amount of money that you have to finance elsewhere. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, there's also a Direct Plus loan for parents, where financial need is not required. Okay, so while the federal loans like direct subsidized and unsubsidized, they have great benefits in terms of interest rate and repayment options, those benefits are not as robust when it comes to Parent Plus loans. Okay, Parent Plus loans usually have a relatively higher interest rate and significant origination fees. So in other words, if you were to take out, let's say, $20,000 in loans, it's not going to be $20,000 when it reaches your school. Okay, you may have to borrow extra or pay some out of your own pocket to cover those fees. However, this may be a viable option for any parents out there that are challenged with a poor credit history or high debt to income ratio. Okay, and one thing I want you to be mindful of is that some schools will actually package this Parent Plus loan into the offer letter and try to make it look like an additional scholarship or grant. That's not the case. It's not free money. It's money that, a parent will have to pay back, not the student. Okay, so just be very careful and mindful of that. All right. So let's say you squeezed every penny you could out of those federal loans. You applied for every scholarship out there. You found out your eligibility for grants, yet you still find yourself in a funding gap. So now what? This is when families should then consider private loans. Okay, sometimes referred to as alternative loans, and these are offered through private lending institutions such as banks. Okay, so a borrower's private loan rate, it is based on their credit worthiness, whereas federal loans are not. All right, and private loans are available to both students and parents. You just have to decide which is best for you. Okay, so I want to give you a little bit more information on private loans. Right, they offer varying interest rates, repayment, and deferment options. And also, due to credit and income requirements, students are actually encouraged to have a cosigner when they're applying for a private loan, because that's going to help them increase their chances for approval and potentially lower their interest rate. Okay, and then a student or parent will then be responsible for all the interest that accrues on the private loan. Okay, and there are also private loan options for parents, right, who may want to finance their children's college education in their own names. Okay. Private loans, they help avoid origination fees, but they also help students build their credit, right, by giving them a certain amount of financial responsibility. Because once a student graduates and begins to pay down their student loans, this is only going to help them strengthen their credit portfolio. Okay, and as a borrower, you can select any private student loan lender of your choosing. And if you are undecided or would like help selecting a lender, well, a good place that I usually recommend people start with is your school's financial aid office, okay? Because they usually do have a preferred lender list that they could provide to you. And when you're going through that process of looking for a private loan lender, there's a couple of factors I want you to consider. Okay, how long has the lender been around? Have they been in the news recently for something good or something bad? Right? What is their reputation? What are the terms of the loan they offer, and how long will you be paying off this loan? Okay, what is the term of their in-school deferment? Do they have a death and disability policy? Do they offer deferment in cases of hardship, which is this has been a big topic, especially with everything that happened with the pandemic and some families losing employment, right? So hardship is definitely one thing that you want to consider. Also, is there an opportunity for cosigner release in the future? And then one of the most important things is going to be that interest rate, right? Does the lender offer both fixed and variable rates? These are all questions you're going to want to ask when looking for a private loan. So once again, bridge that gap in funding. All right. And as I mentioned, credit is going to be a pretty important thing, right? It's something that's going to affect that private student loan that you or your parent will be eligible for. And just for formality, I'm sure we all know what credit means, but credit allows you to purchase a good or a service, and then in lieu of immediate payment, allows you to pay it off over time, okay? And a student's credit score can not only affect the rate of any loan they receive, but it can also impact other areas of life, right? Such as, where they may want to live, okay? Many landlords will actually check your credit score to gauge your responsibility as a potential tenant, okay? And credit can also influence future careers. Since you may be surprised, but there are some companies out there that will look at an applicant's credit score to gauge the level of responsibility once again, okay? And now that I have scared you and shown you that credit will follow you for the rest of your life and impact so many things, don't worry, let's talk about actually how to build your credit, okay, in a responsible way. And one of the first things to do before you even start to look into building it is to look at your credit report, right, and see where you stand. Even if you are a student and you've never used a credit card before, or you are a parent who is not actively using your credit, you're using your credit either, all of you still have a credit score. Okay, we all have a credit score, and it is important to understand what your score means. Okay, so take a look at your credit report. If you see any discrepancies, you want to make sure you're fixing that, and you work towards slowly building or rebuilding your credit in a responsible manner. All right. And the first step into doing that is to actually look into a secured loan or a secured credit card. And basically what that is an applicant can pledge a certain amount of savings, and then the lender will then put a hold on that on the account for that amount. Okay. Basically allowing the borrower to basically borrow against their own funds. Okay. So after the loan is paid off, the savings account or credit card pledged will no longer be on hold, and the applicant will have access to that money. All right. And then another way to build credit is to use a cosigner, once again, when applying for various lending needs. And using a cosigner will not only help you get a better approval rate, but also might help you with your interest rates, okay, and hopefully save you some more money. All right. And then another thing to do is to ask your parents if you can become an authorized user on an existing credit card, okay? So with that, if you're an authorized user on a credit card, that does not mean you can go on a shopping spree. That does not mean you can do whatever you want with their card. You honestly don't even need that card physically in your hand, okay? By being an authorized user, basically anytime your parent uses that credit card and builds their credit, that's going to help the student build their credit as well in a positive manner. However, on the flip side, if your parent misses a payment and their credit score does go down, that's going to affect the student in a negative way as well. Okay, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. But there's also services out there like Experian Credit Boost that help you get credit for those monthly on-time payments for the bills you pay. Okay, now whichever way makes sense for your situation, once again, it comes back to credit report monitoring. Make sure you're checking your credit reports, see if there are any discrepancies. I have a friend who has a very, very common name. If I told you his name right now, you probably would know 2 or 3 of them. But he took a look at his credit report one day and noticed a bunch of discrepancies, noticed a bunch of transactions that did not belong to him. And after doing some research, it turned out that there was a mistake at the credit bureau, and they accidentally put someone else with the same exact name onto his report. Okay, and so, right, that wasn't identity theft, that wasn't fraud. It was just a simple mistake. Okay, and so because he was proactive, he was able to see that and fix that problem, and then continue to build his credit from then on. All right. So now let's put all of that into practice. Okay, let's look at an example. let's say we have two students who are both attending the same school. They're going for the same degree at the same time, picking up the same amount of loans, same appearing period. They have the same favorite show on Netflix. Whatever the case is, everything is the same. The only difference is that one of them had a cosigner with a 780 credit score, and the other had a 660 credit score. Now that difference of 120 points is going to mean a lot, okay? You can see that the student to the left will pay over $11,000 more for the very same education, and that's just for 1 year, right? So if they were to stay on that same track over the next 4 years, the difference can be as high as nearly $12,000, okay? Now, here at Citizens, we are the third largest lender in the nation. We offer more options than any other. But what I really want to do is explain the details of what a private loan entails so that when you start your search process, you're well informed on what to expect and you have a reference point, okay? And before we even get into our solutions, let's get back to free money, all right? So we launched our Citizen Scholarship. We're giving out a monthly prize of $2,500. So basically, there's a new winner every month, and a grand prize of $15,000. And we just gave out our grand prize of last year. A young lady in, I believe, Melrose, Massachusetts, or Medford. And so yeah, so we love to give back to our community. Our scholarship, it is very easy to apply for. You don't need an essay. We don't need to see your grades. Both students and parents can apply. And if you both decide to apply and double your chances, I didn't see anything, so go ahead, go for it. But once again, parents and students can both apply. It takes less than 5 minutes. And then I'm also extremely excited to announce that we just launched our minority scholarship as well. So those students that are eligible for that scholarship, it's on the same site. So once you go there, you'll see the application for the minority scholarship on there as well. And that one is a $2,500 prize, quarterly prize. Okay, so there'll be a new winner every quarter, $2,500. All right. So now we offer two solutions to help families pay for an education that works best for the situation, and that's student loan and parent loan. Now, student loans is where you guessed it, the student is the borrower. And something to make note of is that most private lenders will actually require a cosigner when lending to a student. So basically, students will have the choice of competitive rates, as well as no origination, no application, nor disbursement fees, okay? And borrowers who have a Citizens account actually can receive a loyalty discount of 0.25% rate reduction, all right? And you can actually receive an additional 0.25% rate reduction if you enroll in automatic payment deductions, okay? And then another option we offer is that student loan for parents. So that basically has the same benefits as a student loan. It's just that the sole borrower would be a parent, grandparent, or any other sponsor that's willing to borrow on behalf of the student, okay? So as a reminder, right, that the Federal Plus loan, they have fees that are deducted from the loan proceeds. So a simple way of explaining that is that, if your family needed $10,000, that means you must borrow more than that to cover that origination fee. But here at Citizens, we don't have any disbursement nor application fees. So the amount that you apply for will be the amount that gets dispersed directly to the school. And around this time of the year, many families, they come to us and they tell us that they're worried about their ability to secure financing each year through graduation. But with our multi-year approval, we'd love to give families that peace of mind of knowing that they have the financial resources to see them from orientation to graduation. All right. And typically this is an annual process at other banks, but here at Citizens, we're made ready to make it simple. Okay. Approved borrowers will have access to the simplified process and request funds in subsequent years with no further documentation nor hard credit pull required. Okay. All the family needs to do is just complete a request for the loan amount needed to ensure it is within the student's cost of attendance, okay? And when you're looking at options to fill that gap, right, once again, a lot of families may consider that plus loan or private. So let's just quickly go over a breakdown of both of those to see, the long-term differences, okay? With the Federal Plus loans, once again, they have relatively higher origination rates and origination fees, okay? And if we compare that to the Citizens private loan, which has no origination fee, hence there's no reason to borrow extra, even at our highest interest rate of 4.94, you'll still see a savings of over $1,000. So based on your interest rate, you have the ability to save upwards to $3,900 in interest by using a private loan here at Citizens compared to the federal program. Okay. All right. So now for those parents on the call, refinancing, if you are familiar with that, refinancing can help you lower your interest rates, reduce your monthly payments, fix a variable rate, and even remove a cosigner to gain financial independence and control. Okay. And so for my parents on the line, you may be paying multiple high interest loans for multiple children in addition to your own student loans. Okay. But with a Citizens Education Refinance loan for parents, you can refinance all of those loans into one convenient monthly payment, even while your children are in school. Okay. And as I mentioned earlier, loyalty discount, that is a thing here at Citizens. And one way to be eligible for the loyalty discount is if you were to look into getting a student checking account, okay, made ready for school. Now, our student checking accounts, there is no monthly maintenance fee nor minimum balance required. So it doesn't matter if you have $10 or $1,000. And if you had $1,000 at your age, 18-year-old Osama is definitely jealous. But regardless of whatever you have under there, students under 25 years of age are not going to be charged for having a low balance, okay? And we also have online banking, right? So you can deposit straight from your phone, which comes in handy, especially during these times of COVID. And, maybe you don't want to go to our branch. But as I say that, if you have any questions and would like in-person financial advice, I'm always going to recommend you do visit our branches. We've been open even during the pandemic. We kept our doors open because we truly do care about our community. Even if you don't end up banking with us, we just want to serve as advisors to you. We want to make sure that you're making those right decisions because we're made ready to help you. We know that pulling all-nighters and things like that, that's going to be tough, but banking doesn't have to be. All right. So lastly, I encourage you to visit our College Bound Citizens site and our Journey Hub. It has a wealth of resources to continue to help you throughout your high school journey, your college journey, and beyond. Okay. So there are articles on there that go into basically a lot of the content that I just went through and more in more depth. Okay. As well as videos, many videos of basically the same content, quizzes out there that are more tailored to fitting your needs. It will ultimately help you throughout your path to school. Okay. So I know I threw a ton of information at you on a Wednesday night, but I appreciate you sticking through. Overall, financial aid, it can be hard, but we're here to help you through it. All right. We have over 40 years of experience in student lending. And when I say 40 years, not me, I do not have 40 years of experience, but our institution has 40 years of experience in student lending, and we're prepared to help you when you need it. Okay. But another amazing resource is going to be your college's financial aid office. And once again, your amazing high school guidance counselor staff. Okay, so I'm always going to recommend that you speak to them too if you have any specific questions or special circumstances. All right. Now, the important thing to remember is that hopefully now that you've seen there are many considerations and options to funding a college education, the important thing to remember is that you're on the path to making educated decisions that are right for you. And we're ready to help you along the way. So thank you for joining us tonight, but really thank you for letting me join you on your journey. All right. So that brings us to the conclusion of our presentation. Once again, I'd be happy to answer any questions that are in the chat. I know I promised there were two that I would get back to, but just want to see if there are any other thoughts or any other questions.
I don't see any other questions. I do appreciate you coming out. As you said, we are not experts in financial aid, but we do have resources either like, through you folks, or we have MIFA resources. We have other resources as well. I can't stress enough for our seniors and our senior parents out there. Please, 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 if you haven't already done the FAFSA, do it as quickly as possible. It's gonna help you make some of those decisions. With that, I'll let you answer those two questions.
Yep. So for the GI Bill, you do not have to include that as income on your FAFSA. Okay. So hopefully that answers that question. You do not have to include that on the FAFSA.
All right.
Okay, and then for the other one, still trying to look through our resources. Um,
Well, while you're looking that up, I'm going to make a plug for those folks. We do have our virtual college fair coming up next Thursday. Um, Many of the students have already signed up. Please, if you have not signed up, please do so. I know we're going to have over 50 colleges that are going to be there. It's a pretty cool experience in that you're really going to be able to visit each of the colleges ahead of time. You can do like a questionnaire that will help you narrow down some of the colleges that are there that might be more in line with what you're looking for. Um, You'll get a virtual backpack with all kinds of information from any of the colleges that you visit in the booth. You can, initially it'll be kind of a text conversation with all kinds of materials, but you can, I believe, request or they will request to speak to you, especially if you have any specific questions. So you can speak to a live representative, and you'll also get more information about how to connect with those colleges. So hopefully this will be a nice experience for folks. And unlike our live college fairs in the past, parents will be able to be there with them, maybe prompting some questions and prompting some conversation, if you know what I mean. So please take advantage of that. To sign up, the students have all been given links on how to do that, but there's also on the website, if you go to the district website, it actually pops up with the link right away. It's the first thing you'll see. There's a little message there. So just a little advertisement for our college fair coming up next week.
awesome. And to answer the UTMA question, so that would be reported under student assets as a student asset on your FAFSA.
All right. Any other questions out there? All right. Well, seeing no other questions, I'm going to have say good night to everybody. Thank you for taking your time out tonight and doing this presentation for us. It was very helpful, I think, for folks, informative. It's a good place to really sort of get this information and dig in a little bit. So I do appreciate it, and everybody have a wonderful night. And thank you to our interpreters and our closed caption folks as well. I appreciate it. All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.